We'll call this meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the call.
Dear Supervisor, please be advised that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors will meet at 10 a.m. on November 14th, 2023 in the County Board Room. All County Board members' claims are due in the County Clerk's office by noon on November 3rd, 2023, so they can be prepared for Audit Committee approval. Sincerely, Paul Severson, County Clerk.
Get the roll call.
Bridget Turner.
Here.
Stacy Klein.
Here.
Richard Seisha.
Here.
Lori Severson. Andy Todd.
Here.
Emery Palmer.
Here.
Kevin Adams.
Here.
Dick Miller.
Here.
David Orsh.
Here.
John Austin.
Here.
Don Waldera.
Here.
Robert Becker.
Here.
Dan Schreiner.
Here.
Kellen Nelson.
Here.
David Larson.
Here.
Jeannie Nutter.
Here.
Ron Johnson.
Here.
16 and 1.
Okay. Open meeting law requires to be met with proper posting and notification. We have 11 items on agenda. Motion made and seconded to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, carried. Minutes from the October meeting. Okay. Motion by Ms. Nutter, seconded by Mr. Becker. All those in favor signify by, or any discussion or changes? Not. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Appearances. Quarterly update from John Shesha. Is he here?
He should be. Is he out in the hall?
No. Okay, we'll go to the sheriff then.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'll try to be brief. I wasn't at the last meeting where I would have a quarterly report, so the statistics I'm going to give you now, I don't have a comparison from the previous quarter, but this is what's been going on for the month of August, September, and October in the sheriff's office. So in that time period, we have received 3,209 calls for service. That is typical. It's usually right around 31 to 3,300. Nothing unusual there. We did investigate 7 deaths during that time. There were 32 drug investigations started at that time. When I say 32 started, that does not mean they all result in prosecution, but they are related to drugs in some way, shape, or form. We did investigate 28 simple assaults. Simple assaults range from making noise and upsetting your neighbor to maybe a fight with a minor injury or something. We had 1 burglary in that time period and 8 thefts. So none of those numbers are unusual. As far as crashes go, we had 196 crashes called into dispatch in that time period. The month of October, typically we start seeing a rise in deer crashes, so that's going to be a part of that number. Of that number, 110 were deer crashes. So as far as deer crashes go, we don't send an officer to every one of them anymore. We typically just tell the driver to go to a website and fill out the crash report themselves, but they still have to report it to dispatch if it's over $1,000 damage. So this number is how many are reported to dispatch, but not necessarily how many that our officers responded to. There were 57 property damage crashes, 28 injury crashes, And then on August 19th, we had the fatal motorcycle crash in Elk Creek. That was part of a special event that was going on that day, resulted in the unfortunate death of one of the participants. In the same time period, 150 citations were issued for motor vehicle violations, 10 citations for non-traffic violations, and those could be like squealing your tires, anything up to something that could normally be classified as a crime. We have an ordinance for theft per se. A person could be referred to the DA's office or arrested for theft, or we could just give them a simple ordinance violation citation, and that's what that NTC or non-traffic citation is. There were 10 of them, and 278 warnings issued to the motoring public that went through Trempealeau County. We had 26 mental health incidents. 5 of them resulted in Chapter 51 or emergency detentions. And as far as the jail goes, I have the numbers for today. We have 44 in our custody today. That means 11 of them are out of county in contracted housing. 3 are on the electronic monitor. And so as it stands right now, we have 30 in our jail upstairs, and that is our maximum capacity is 30. There are a few of them that are due for court today or tomorrow and would likely be released on some sort of bond. But we can't permanently house more than 26 at a time. So we're over that number, but by the end of the day, we're hoping we'll be back down underneath that number. As far as employment goes up there, we have 1 opening in our jail right now, 1 vacancy, and that's a female position. And I just want to note that that's been open for 1 month now, and we have 0 applicants. So we're in a bit of a crisis when it comes to employees, just like everybody else is, especially females at this particular point. Fully staffed in dispatch, and we do have 1 opening on the traffic, but we have 1 in background that we'll be likely filling that with. So those are some of the things that have gone on statistic-wise. If you have any questions about statistics, otherwise I just got a couple notables I'm going to mention here. So no questions on that. I just want to let you know that last month this board approved a resolution to take up to $31,000 out of the general fund in the event we were successful in getting the Next Gen 911 grant. We did get the grant, and so we'll be updating our 911 equipment and dispatch to the next generation. And that'll allow us to actually receive video and text messaging from persons who want to call in incidents. They'll be able to give us basically live feed of what's going on. That is a new feature. That's not something we do right now in dispatch, and there is some navigating through policy and procedure and how we're going to do that yet. But so the award was for $198,000, $198,873. We had asked for just about, well, it was like $310,000. They did not award us for the annual maintenance for 5 years. They would whatever they would award has to be part of the project that is complete within 18 months. So the maintenance that came with it, that was on the application, was not awarded, which is fine. We budget for maintenance now. This maintenance will fall off when we move to the new system, so it'll just be replaced by with the maintenance for the new system. So instead of $31,000 coming from the general fund, we'll be asking for $19,878 for that 10% match. So pretty excited about that. Just a little update on our radio tower project. You all know that a number of months ago we approved to upgrade our radio tower project. We have all the equipment is in and is staged in La Crosse. They are testing it. We have 6 out of the 7 contracts signed with the cell towers. The 8th or the 7th one we're working on right now, it sounds like it's going to be a $0 agreement. So keep our fingers crossed on that. We're not gonna say for sure yet until we get the signed contract. So I would guess about August probably that project will be done. They do plan on working on it over the winter, the way it sounds. So just want to give you a little bit of a tidbit of a bill we're going to be expecting in our jail. It just came in this morning. One of the inmates decided to flush a pair of underwear down the toilet, and it took 2 days for a plumber to get that taken care of at about $120 an hour probably for a plumber's bill. Just one of the unique situations that hard for us to budget for, but yet it's an expense we'll have to pay for. We are going to be looking into whether or not we can bill that particular inmate for that and see how that goes. Just like the DA's office, the clerk of courts, and child support, we are anticipating having an open house in the new facility sometime in December. I just want to talk about the sheriff's office piece. We will probably schedule tours of the jail. We'll let people see the inside and outside of the jail. Might restrict photographs, pictures, and stuff like that of what they can do. But I think we're going to have some job announcements laying around there too, for maybe once somebody walks in there and sees how nice a place it might be to work, maybe they'd be interested in applying for a job. So we hope anyway. Just two more things here. I just recently listed 4 squad cars for sale. On 2 of them are on govdeals.com. 2 of them are on wisconsinsurplus.com. If you're interested in taking a look at bidding on a used squad car, I encourage you to go to those websites. And that is something we've done now for about 4 years versus trading them in. I've been getting about twice the value of what I would get on a trade by selling them online. So that's been helping us keep our costs down when we have to purchase cars. And the last thing is we are doing our Christmas is for Kids project again this year on December 8th. The Whitehall High School has allowed us to use their commons again this year. Last year was the first time we did it this way, and it went over very well. The schools in our county actually nominate families for that, and then we put the tags on the tree. They lasted about 3 days, and they were all taken. So we got a lot of participation and people who want to give gifts to those kids who are nominated. So we'll be doing a little party on the 8th, and they'll give their gifts, and we'll have hot dogs and chips and just a couple hour of get together with them. So it goes over very well. So that was a very quick report.
Excuse me, what was the date on that?
December 8th, Wednesday, December 8th. So that's a very quick report of what's been going on over there. I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for the sheriff? Not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see the district attorney showed up, so.
Excited to hop in. Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I've been just running off some copies of some of the year-end numbers. I'll send those around now. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Seisha. I'm the district attorney. Good to see so many people in attendance. Glad these folks are not here to see me give my update, so I'll be brief so you guys can get to the main course of what you have to talk about. I have relatively good news. It's fairly status quo in the district attorney's office for 2023 relative to 2022. I'm sending around case numbers now. I would note that the numbers for 2023 are filings as at today's date, so they're not year-end numbers. Everything else is year-end numbers, and you'll see that 2023 is going to be pretty consistent, or is pretty consistent with 2022. Elevated relative to some years prior, not a record-setting year for filings, but still we're staying busy. As indicated, we have 232 criminal felony case filings this year. That's, as I said, consistent with 2022, lower than 2021, higher than 2020, in the same ballpark of 2018, 2019. So nothing too out of the ordinary, pretty kind of mill run numbers relative to what we've had in the last 5 to 7 years. 159 criminal misdemeanor cases have been filed, and 68 criminal traffic cases have been filed. These numbers don't exclude the hundreds of forfeiture traffic citations that also come through the office. These are only criminal filings. It also doesn't address juvenile filings, which include children in need of protection services and juvenile delinquency and juveniles in need of protection services cases. I've spoken with you guys about those cases previously. Those are a big part of what we do in the office, although the case numbers are smaller than the criminal numbers. Those cases are obviously very important because we're dealing with the lives of young people. And in the delinquency space, hoping to have a positive intervention for youth before they end up transitioning into the adult criminal system. We've had a number of kind of interventions through DHS primarily on that front, and so that's a real caseload that's not reflected in the handout that I just passed around. But it's a big part of what we do in the DA's office, and obviously DHS is a huge part of their mission. We are fully staffed in the district attorney's office. We have 2 prosecutors, including me. We have 2 paralegals, 1 victim witness coordinator, and 1 full-time diversion coordinator. Diversion coordinator Megan Peterson is up and running this year, kind of at full capacity for the first time. She is doing an excellent job, in my estimation. She's very diligent about following up with folks, putting them in contact with services, ensuring that they're compliant with their conditions. And I believe, as I mentioned last year, around the time that we were making a pitch for a full-time diversion coordinator, that position is very important in service of the mission of the district attorney's office. Not only to kind of remove or defer out young, nonviolent, low-risk individuals from the system, but that's also a critically important part of diversion, but also to provide kind of a backstop against higher-risk individuals who are on probation supervision who might not be compliant with probation supervision, but the Department of Corrections is opting to not intervene in one way or another. Basically, what that means is if a person is on concurrent diversion supervision along with Department of Corrections probation supervision, the diversion coordinator in my office has the ability to revoke that diversion agreement and bring that person back into court for a hearing and potentially sentencing on that diverted count, regardless of what Department of Corrections chooses to do with that individual. We don't do that in every case. We're not looking for reasons to revoke. We're looking for reasons to kind of ensure that people are engaging in the programming and services that they're supposed to be engaging in, and staying out of trouble, avoiding subsequent offenses, avoiding creating new victims. Sometimes we do need to step in, though, and this is an important backstop to the Department of Corrections if they're unwilling to act. The criminal traffic filings for 2023 are down slightly from 2022. I don't think that's necessarily a reflection of what's happening in the community. Impaired driving is something that's very important to my office. I think it's very important to law enforcement as well, and it's been my mission since I started as DA in 2018 to encourage law enforcement to think of impaired driving as not just driving while under the influence of alcohol, but also driving under the influence of illegal drugs, to include methamphetamine and heroin metabolites, or other opioids. Last year, at about this time, we had a restricted controlled substance homicide case where an individual was killed in southern Trempealeau County as a result of a person who had methamphetamine in his system. So this is a real concern for public safety. It's interdiction of drug impaired drivers is not the same as interdiction of alcohol or even control or central nervous system depressant impaired driving. The symptoms of a person who's intoxicated after consuming methamphetamine are very different from a person who's intoxicated because they consume too much alcohol. So encouraging law enforcement to be vigilant about that enforcement is a big part of my mission and my concern, and I'm encouraging law enforcement to act accordingly when they observe drivers who are impaired as a result of methamphetamine or stimulant drug or non-alcohol depressants. So that's kind of an ongoing mission. I think I'd kind of put that as a backstop to the lower number of criminal traffic filings for this year. Finally, an issue of concern that I've raised with you all before is truancy in the county. It's kind of going back to the Juveniles Needed Protection Services caseload. Truancy since 2020, since the COVID pandemic, has been a real issue for every one of our schools, countywide, statewide, nationwide. Truancy has always been a challenging problem. Encouraging, kind of finding a multi-layered intervention in these juveniles' lives and these families is not an easy, straightforward process. But I think that through collaboration with our schools, collaboration with DHS, we've at least developed a system for intervening relatively consistently for these juveniles, such that a lot of districts are now kind of on the same page in terms of how they're responding to truancy. At the beginning of this year, we had a bunch of different districts doing a bunch of different things. No one was consistent. Some people weren't referring for truancy at all. Some people were referring, kind of at the baseline threshold for truancy. And I think now we're kind of we're at least on track to have everybody on the same page in terms of what the interventions are. Interventions through the school that kind of ratchet up and then ultimately find their way to DHS and to my office. So we've made some progress on that front. It's an ongoing challenge to encourage young people to get to school, stay in school, incentivize their parents properly to ensure that that's happening. Although I'm not going to say that we've come anywhere close to solving the issue, at least we've developed some consistent strategies to do so. So those are kind of the big changes, or the big pushes for the DA's office for this year. I don't have anything quite as exciting as the sheriff to share. No fun and exciting fundraisers or community events. If anyone would like to come and see the district attorney's office in the new building once that's open, I'd welcome an opportunity to give a tour. It's a lot of space. We were told to design for the future, and that's what we did. I like my office now, but we do look forward to being in the new space. It will be nice. It'll provide some services and some safety features that will be welcome, I welcome an opportunity to give folks a tour. As always, and very sincerely, I encourage anyone who's interested in matters of criminal justice in the county, who's concerned about matters of criminal justice in the county. If a person has concerns of any type, if they have grievances with how they think that criminal matters are being enforced at the law enforcement level, up to the DA's office, to the courts, I would encourage them to reach out to me. I'm happy to set up a time to chat and discuss with them what those concerns are, and hopefully provide some answers. And that's to the community at large, and also to each and every one of you. If there are concerns, or if there are questions, I'd much rather have an opportunity to address those rather than have perhaps false beliefs persist. I don't know that anyone necessarily is accusing my office of doing anything. I haven't heard any negative kind of scuttlebutt in the community, but if anyone has concerns or thoughts, I'd really welcome an opportunity to discuss those. I can assure you that although we're not perfect, my assistant and I do work very diligently to accomplish the mission of the district attorney's office, holding folks accountable, getting them in touch with services, and keeping the community safe. So welcome an opportunity to talk. Thanks, everybody. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Item C, Library Representative Jessica Sonauer.
Schoonover. That's all right. Yes, my name is Jessica Schoonover, and I am here on behalf of all 9 Trempealeau County libraries. In a little bit, you will be considering a resolution to reimburse county libraries at 100% of our actual cost to serve your non-residents. That did pass through the Executive Finance Committee 4-1, so you'll have an opportunity to discuss that soon. But before that, I wanted to explain a little bit more about how non-resident reimbursement works. So libraries are not federally or state funded. We do not receive any operating revenue from the federal government or the state of Wisconsin. Libraries in Wisconsin are funded in 2 main ways: tax appropriation by the municipality in which they are located, and county reimbursement for circulated items to non-municipal residents. The resolution that you're going to look at today is regarding this reimbursement to Trempealeau County libraries for actual usage by residents who don't live in a municipality with a library and therefore do not pay a library tax. This resolution is the same as we presented over the past 6 years, asking that Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors reimburse your 9 county libraries at 100% for your taxpayers' actual library usage. We are fortunate to have 9 public libraries in our county spread throughout our large geographic area to serve your taxpayers. Your public libraries are funded in part through taxpayer dollars in the cities of Galesville, Whitehall, Arcadia, Blair, Independence, and Osseo, and the villages of Trempealeau, Ettrick, and Strum. Trempealeau County residents who do not live in one of these communities with a library do not pay a tax to the library, and therefore Chapter 43 of Wisconsin state statutes indicate that reimbursement for actual circulations of physical materials to non-residents is required at a county level. This reimbursement helps build and support excellent library service that is available to every resident in the county. Each library in the Winding Rivers Library System keeps patron records that indicate the township and the county of their users. And this residency information must be verified yearly in order to keep using your library account by the patron in order to keep that account active and ensures accurate record keeping. Libraries are reimbursed by the county for the library services provided the previous year to these non-resident borrowers. So we are here talking to you about the reimbursement for services we already provided in 2022, last year. According to state statutes, non-resident reimbursement is calculated by taking the library's operating cost and dividing it by the total yearly circulations to arrive at a dollar amount or a unit cost for each circulation. And that dollar amount is then multiplied by the actual number of circulated items to those non-municipal residents. State statutes require counties to reimburse libraries at a minimum of 70% of their costs to serve residents of the county, as well as adjacent counties. Over the past 6 years, the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors has made the commitment to reimburse their 9 in-county libraries fully for the services we already provided to their residents in the previous year. Just as you wouldn't consider paying only $7 for a $10 item at Walmart, Trempealeau County has been reimbursing us for our full costs to serve their taxpayers without a library. Because of this, libraries in Trempealeau County continue to meet the educational, recreational, and cultural needs of our public. The services that our libraries provide are often not readily available elsewhere in the county, such as internet access and Wi-Fi hotspots, 3D printing, vocational training, VHS to DVD conversion units, and individual technology assistance, to simply name a few. If you don't utilize your county's public libraries, it would be very easy for you to assume that libraries are no longer relevant today. In an era of technology and lightning-fast access to unlimited information, some may think that libraries are on their way out. But that is simply not the case. The data in Trempealeau County clearly shows the relevancy of our libraries. From the Department of Instruction's annual report data on Trempealeau County libraries in 2022, over 156,000 items were checked out from our physical collections, and almost 38,000 digital items from our online library. These circulated items saved your taxpayers a considerable amount of money and provided entertainment, education, and enlightenment. In addition to finding value in our materials for checkout, county taxpayers appreciated and participated in the varied programs your libraries offer to all ages. In 2022, 900 programs were offered at your 9 Trempealeau County libraries, with over 15,000 people attending. As elected officials, you are expected to involve, represent, and be accountable to the public, set policies, provide services, make budgets, and levy taxes. We appreciate the work you've done in Trempealeau County and the resulting positive fiscal health we currently enjoy. It is important to remember that state statutes ensure that library reimbursement is not subject to the county's levy limit. This means that a cut to libraries is not necessary to balance the county budget or to save money to be used elsewhere. Reimbursement for our actual costs to serve taxpayers without a library is just that. It's a reimbursement of dollars already spent. Any cut in library reimbursement will negatively impact services to your taxpayers. Again, as reimbursement is not subject to the levy limit, taxpayers would save a mere 16 cents per $100,000 of assessed value with a 1% cut, for example. Our libraries can save them well more than 16 cents every time they step through our doors. Many have taken time out of their schedules to show their support of 100% reimbursement by sending in letters or attending this meeting today. If you are in the audience to support 100% reimbursement to your county libraries, will you please stand? Thank you. Many of the letters and emails you received over the past few days have the same prevailing sentiment. To quote my own library board in their letter of support, the library is obligated to serve all Trempealeau County taxpayers 100%, regardless of where they live, whether they live in a community with or without a library. As a library board, we see the library's impact. We see how hard our library staff work to ensure needs are being met in our neighborhoods, and we see how our community positively responds to this work. Do you see it? Please consider the needs of your community and reimburse Trempealeau County libraries at 100%. Thank you. Any questions for me? Yes,
If I can,
David.
a clarification.
Yes.
I believed, maybe I misheard you.
Okay.
You said you were asking for reimbursement. I thought I heard you say 22 in your. Is
Yep.
that-
It's the reimbursement of money that we already spent in 2022.
And you're asking for that in 24 or?
That's correct, in
So
2024.
you're 2 years behind.
That's right.
On asking, okay.
Yep. The way that the annual report data works, we have to have a full year. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll continue on with the regular deal because we're not scheduled to start reading the budget until 11, so we can go on with item 6, which is taking up the libraries. So a motion to
I gotta read it
read
first.
read the resolution and a motion
No
to...
motion to read it, but
Okay. And then,
you ready?
yep.
Whereas Trempealeau County has 9 in-county libraries located in the cities of Arcadia, Blair, Gilesville, Independence, Osseo, and Whitehall, and the villages of Ettrick, Strum, and Trempealeau. And whereas several years ago, the state of Wisconsin passed legislation for counties to financially support local libraries for circulation for non-resident borrowers, which include our local in-county libraries and adjacent out-of-county libraries. And whereas the county is mandated to reimburse those libraries at a 70% reimbursement rate for Trempealeau County residents that are not considered non-resident borrowers. And whereas the levy required for libraries is only calculated on non-resident usage. And whereas the levy for libraries falls outside of the levy limit requirements, so does not affect county funding for operations. And whereas the library board of trustees from the city of Arcadia and the librarians from the city of Blair, Chris McNamer, city of Galesville, Laura Oinus, city of Independence, Kayla Matson, city of Osseo, Gina Waters, city of Whitehall, Amanda Heggie, and village of Ettrick, Carla Dunham, village of Strum, Dawn Herring, and village of Trempealeau, Jessica Schonover, have requested support at a higher reimbursement level for their libraries. And whereas the Executive and Finance Committee has reviewed the request and recommends supporting the 9 libraries at 100% reimbursement level for 2024. Now therefore be it resolved, the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors approves supporting the cities of Arcadia, Blair, Galesville, Independence, Osseo, Whitehall, and villages of Ettrick, Strum, and Trempealeau at 100% reimbursement rate for non-resident circulation in 2024. Introduced by Executive and Finance Committee, David Larson, John Austin, Bridget Turner, Richard Seisha.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Nutter, second by Mr. Johnson. Discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to lend my support of funding the libraries 100%. This should not be a political or partisan issue. We're, as Trempealeau County residents, it kind of irks me that there are certain of my fellow board members that don't want to fund the library at 100%. Just kind of bothers me that, I don't know, like they said, like the representative said, it's only 16 cents per person only. If we can't, 16% per county residents, I think that's a pretty minimal amount for a service. I also use my local library, so, and I agreed, I've seen in my local library, I can't speak for other libraries, I've seen how dedicated these staff are, and when I was a newer resident, how they welcomed me too, so, and also speaking to people that are outside the district or the townships that have limited or no access to the internet, the libraries are a wonderful tool. With that, I will yield. Thank you.
Ms. Nutter.
I would also speak in support of funding the libraries for 100%, more than just providing reading material for its citizens. It's a safe place for kids to go. It may be one of the safest places children can go to. I know so many kids' programs at libraries are life-saving for these children, and it can also be a lifesaver for parents who have their kids at the library summer programs. I know when I was a college student, my college was paid for by my work-study program at Madison's Memorial Union Library. I worked in the archives for 3.5 years. I have seen in our little town of Strum, people sitting in the driveway to use the Wi-Fi access. The libraries are a pillar in our communities, and as representatives who represent the people in Trempealeau County, I feel it's our obligation to fully fund and support the libraries. And I appreciate your comment, Representative Adams or Supervisor Adams, that should not be we're not a partisan body anyway, so politics and personal opinions about libraries should not enter into this, because it's what we do for the best for our community.
Any other comments?
I think we should show our support by voting on this issue.
I did have one question that I failed to ask. What is the actual financial impact for 2022 to the county then? What's the
sure.
dollar amount?
Yeah, Amanda, do you want to pass that out so everybody can see?
Would everybody like a copy or, okay.
So for your 9 in-county libraries reimbursing us at 100%, it's $507,176. You are also responsible, though, to reimburse your adjacent counties at 70%. And so those are listed on the second half of your sheet that you're looking at. So that 70% is $30,081. $30,081. So the combination of 507,176, which is 100%, the 30,081 is a total of 537,257 for county reimbursement.
Can I
There
go
is other, yeah.
one- I'll add on to hers, because then we also get bills from Eau Claire County, L.E. Phillips Library, the Altoona Library, and the Augusta Library, for people that from Trempealeau County have gone to those. And so those are also reimbursed at the 70%.
Right.
That first figure you gave, the 500 some.
The 507,176.
That includes the 70% though, right?
No, that is 100% of for your 9 Trempealeau County libraries.
For the in-county.
And then there's
then
another, the
there's-
70 is 30,
I
and so
know,
the
but
total
the
is 537.
70% of that $500,000 figure is already included.
Well, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yep,
Yeah.
thank you. Yep.
So I don't want people to think that that 30%.
Oh, no, yeah, no.
Chair.
Yeah.
I'd like to put a few things in here when it comes to the budgets, because we're going to be talking about the budget really soon.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of anticipation out there where they're saying the budget was met due to keeping everything under the levy. We got to look at the future, too. We got to look at next year. We got to look at what's coming. For instance, I'll just throw things out there like the roads. I mean, right now the budget says something about $600,000 for the roads. Well, we're going to need to take $2 million out of our slush fund or your general fund just to cover the roads, which was asked for $5 million, but we could only give 600 out of the budget to do it. So those are the kind of things. Right now, if we didn't take that $2 million without taxpayer money coming into our county, we could fund our county for a year. Now, we're going to be asking for $2 million because we don't have it in our budget, and taking that $2 million out is going to fund our county for 6 months. So these are the kinds of things that we got to look at when it comes to budgeting. I understand it's a little bit of money. I mean, it's nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with, we are voted on the board to look at all taxes. So all departments needed to sit down and say, what can we do to cut our budget down so we can make everything work when it comes to our budgeting. So we went to the sheriff's department, we went to zoning, we asked every one of these departments to say, you know what can you guys do for us to try to get these numbers down so we can try to, down the road, try to balance our budget better than we're balancing now, instead of saying, let's borrow money to get the roads done, instead of saying, no, we actually did this in our budget. Sure, it can't happen 1 year. It might not happen for 2 years. But we got to all remember that things were signed for putting this new jail in our systems. And we spent a lot of money doing this. So what I'm saying is, why don't we all reach in and say, okay, we need to sit back and say, what can we do in the next 2 or 3 years to cut it down? I don't care if it's $1,000. I don't care if it's $50,000. I don't care if it's $100,000. We got to do something instead of saying, let's just kick it down the road a little farther, kick it down the road a little farther. I'm in some committees, and there's a lot of talk in the committees, not necessarily the board, in the committees, when it comes to what's going to happen. I'll give you a good example. The state just raised minimum wage for our jailers, for the state employees, $33 an hour, minimum wage. I mean, so we're talking, you look in our books what we pay our jailers for minimum wage. So what are they going to do? They're going to travel. So we got to understand this money for next year, sure, it looks great right now, besides taking the $2 million out of our general fund just to get half of the roads covered. It looks good right now. But when next year comes, what are we going to look at? We're going to look at, like, we need more money. Referendums. Rumor has it GET is going to be asking for a referendum to raise taxes so they can pay for people who work there. Rumor, I'm not going to verify it, but I'm going to tell you there's a rumor there. So taxes are going to go up there. referendums got to stop. Somehow we got to get a kick on this. Somehow we got to figure out, let's look forward. A little bit of here and a little bit of there all helps in the long run, and that's what we're here to make our decisions for the long run. We got to try to find a way to save some money. So step raises for all the for all the county board. They get step raises, but what about the highway department? They're not on the step program. They get no raises, the minimum, whatever they give you, because we can't afford it. So people can't afford inflation's going up. People are paying more money for gas, paying more money for this. We can't even afford to give them a raise. So my whole concern about what's going on is it ain't to defund the library. It has nothing to do with defunding the library. But so if we were going to say, let's defund the library, well then what are we going to do? Defund the police department? Because we asked them to drop their budget. They did. We're going to defund the zoning. They dropped theirs, so we got to defund them. I mean, you can call it what you want to call it. We got to try to not raise our taxes, if not this year, next year, the following year. We got to do something. And to sit here, you know, it went from 70 to 100%. That's great. I love libraries. I shouldn't even have to say this out loud. I do. They're there for a reason. I understand this. But my whole point of it is if we're asking every department in Trempealeau County to drop, why can't we ask the libraries to drop a little bit just until we get caught up, just until we can actually balance the budget and say the budget is balanced and feel good about it? Because we're going to have to pass a resolution here for $2 million for our roads because we couldn't put that in the budget because it would have never made it. So I guess, you know what, I'll yield back at that, but that's where I stand. I mean, and I'm going to tell you, stressed out, with stress, that I am not to defund the libraries. I am here to not raise the taxes in the future. That's what I'm here for. So I'll yield back.
Any other comments? Yes.
I'd like to
Fran.
call the question. Should
Okay.
have said that the first time.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Mr. Emery?
I'd like to make a couple of comments here. I am
Pardon
fully
me,
in support.
Can we get a ruling from Corp Counsel on the fact that I called the question?
So looking at,
Put your button on. That one, yep, that's it.
so looking at Trempealeau County's ordinance, it is something that when a question is under debate, no motion shall be received, and that includes to call for a vote. And so it is one that, if you look at the ordinance itself, and I'm looking at Chapter 2 for anybody that is looking along with me, it again is to call the question to vote, and it's without debate.
Okay. Question to vote. Call the roll then.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Helen Nelson,
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Bridget Turner,
Yes.
Stacy Klein,
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Oh, Lori's not here. Andy Todd,
No.
what's no? If there's too many mics on, it might affect somebody turning.
No.
Yeah, I got Andy's. Emery,
Yes.
Kevin Adams,
Absolutely yes.
Dick Miller,
Yes.
David Orsh,
No.
John Austin,
Yes.
Don Waldera,
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
14-2.
It passes. 100%.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
may I ask Corp Counsel a question?
go ahead.
Here, I don't have mine on, huh?
Now you come.
My understanding of the question, call for a question calls for a vote on the question as opposed to a vote on the item. So we didn't vote on whether to close discussion. I don't mean to be argumentative with Dan, but my understanding is that when you call for the question, it simply calls for a vote on whether to close discussion, then vote on the item. Am I correct on that?
So if you look at, again, I'm in chapter 2, and if you look at the motion ranking, it actually says in parentheses, it closes debate.
Right. Oh, I see. Without voting?
It calls it basically to the vote at that point, because there's no further discussion on the item.
Okay.
I see where he's coming from.
Thank you.
He's voting to close debate. Is that what he just did?
Yeah.
We didn't do the resolution?
I thought we voted on the resolution.
That's what I thought.
I
We
thought
already had a
so.
motion in a second.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Well, I think at this point, we're going to follow the individual we pay for that advice.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the motion passed the actual resolution for 100% funding is what we just did. Not on whether we accept the question or not. Okay. We got time yet, so we'll go on to item 2. Authorized transfer of unassigned general fund to Highway Department.
Whereas the Trempealeau County Highway Department, hereafter Highway, maintains and constructs roadways throughout Trempealeau County for the safety and benefit of those that travel such roads each day. And whereas the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors, hereafter Board, recognizes the importance of the Highway Department's road construction responsibilities as well as its own budgetary responsibilities. And whereas in 2024, Highway will require for road construction the amount of $2 million in addition to those proposed budget amounts otherwise held by and entrusted to the Highway Department. And whereas there are sufficient funds in the unassigned general fund available to cover the amount of $2 million for 2024 highway road construction purposes. Therefore, be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors approves the transfer of funds from the unassigned general fund 101.32100 in the amount of $2 million to the Highway Department account 101.53318.999 for 2024 highway road construction. And it is introduced by Executive Finance Committee, Bridget Turner, David Larson, Richard Seisha, John Austin, David Orsh.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Seisha, second by Ms. Turner. Any discussion?
Second.
Oh, second?
What?
They have their own names?
You said Seisha and Turner. Oh, you both,
It don't matter.
he took this one instead of that one.
Sorry about that. Anyway, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the 2 million?
Yeah, I just want to be sure I fully understand this. So, what I think I heard is that in the past few years, we've been borrowing to the tune of like $5 million to fund roads. So through this resolution and budget hearings, we are not borrowing any money for roads.
Right.
And funding it through the general fund with $2 million. So considerably less work will be done on our roads.
Absolutely. This is basically for construction of roads.
Upkeep, correct?
Yeah.
Not upkeep, construction.
Construction.
There's a separate budget for maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
And just to be aware, the adjusted general fund has 4.98 in there. We don't want it to go too low, but this will bring it down to 2.9, so it'll be close to 3 million, yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Apologize. Construction of what new roads? Where are we putting new roads?
What it is it's the milling of old roads and working them up and repaving them. It's not like building a whole new road from the ground up. It's going in and reconstructing the roads that are there.
Okay, and that to me is maintenance of the roads, so that's where I was confused, but you're, okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, most of the time it's just a patching or an overlay, or this is where they completely tear everything
This
up
is to
and
mill up the whole road and
basically rebuild it. but that has a better base, it keeps getting the base better, so eventually the roads maybe will even last longer. But usually you can get about 20 years out of a road.
Thank you, I get it now.
Dawn, you made me want to ask questions. Can somebody from the highway department, maybe my colleague sitting next to me, tell me where in the county that road construction happened last year so I can think about what we're talking about to differentiate between upkeep and maintenance and new road?
I think the upper end of it.
So paving in 2023, maybe?
Yeah, like last year, what
Did
was?
we do the end of D?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Double
from the top of the hill down to 53, that's all
That was actually
considered
last year, but we
construction?
did the other way toward Highway 53 on the other side.
On the south side.
Okay,
And
S, they're out on S
Kind
now,
of road,
I
yes,
think.
yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it, and I didn't go.
Trying to
on-
think of, I
I
think.
didn't go look at the work this year because I was in another
Right,
meeting.
right. I think the budget, I don't know exactly which roads will be done in 2024.
okay, but I
think
get,
that's up for debate.
I know when you say D, I know what you're talking about
Yeah.
then.
All I do know is that he had, roads he had planned on, he has to cut at least in half, or he's
Correct.
planning on doing, because there's just not the funds to do it.
Maybe
Is-
what,
Is there somebody, and then my follow-up is there someone in the highway department that is a liaison between the state and trying to figure out where the infrastructure dollars from the bill that was passed 2 years ago, how much that money is? Because a huge portion of that was set aside for road construction, road repair, road maintenance in Wisconsin, and I'm yet to know what that dollar amount is and how we're getting it. And secondly, is there someone in the highway department that is looking at grants that come through transportation for these kinds of things? Because I see them on my county board supervisor email all the time, grants that are available, things that are available to highway departments, and I don't ever hear any talk about how we capture those dollars.
You want to answer that one?
Well, go ahead, if you've got a
Well,
good answer.
our commissioner does do all those things.
Yeah.
Our former commissioner, our current commissioner. Some of the frustrating part with some of those dollars is they were allocated for certain use type of roads, major connectors, minor connectors, this and that. So yeah, they're there, but we may not have roads that fit that.
Okay.
So it's a puzzle that he's trying to put together to maximize the funds that we can get, take care of our problems, and it's difficult and frustrating, I'll add.
So there is, I mean, he's on top of that, and it would be good if he would come to a meeting soon, because I'm just really curious about where that infrastructure dollars are and when we're going to see them. And I know it's complicated getting money from the federal government,
Slow to come.
so.
Another one of those was a specific for egg roads, and I know he's working on one of those.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, and just to add to, for Jeannie's sake, that there's a lot of money out there, but the restrictions and on the money
Right.
is almost ties your hands, so you're almost cheaper to go without it than following all the added costs that they add into it with all the things that they throw on top of the project. Whereas if we just go in and mill it ourselves and put it back out, it saves us money. Even if they would give us 30 or 40%, the added cost that they put into the whole project will supersede what you'd be saving.
Okay. So basically, some of these grants and things are more accessible to larger urban counties, maybe
Higher traffic.
higher traffic. Okay.
And they fit only certain projects that would benefit
Okay.
us.
That's
Yes,
too
sir,
bad.
he's got a question here. Go ahead.
I think my biggest concern with this, and I would be in full favor to fund this in that way, is that does this 2 million, in addition with their maintenance, does it keep and maintain all of the positions at a full-time rate for all of our current highway workers? Because if we were used to doing 5 million, how will that affect their job hours?
It'll be the same.
They'll have enough work
just
at
have-
this rate
They have
to keep
enough
them busy.
Work through townships and villages and stuff like that. And that's how
Okay.
they actually make their money.
Great, great.
And state. Wisconsin is the only state in the union that uses county employees to maintain.
Did you say that
again? Wisconsin's the only state in the union that uses county employees to maintain the state highways, including the freeways. Every other state has their own state highway department that sends out crews and follows the interstates or whatever, except for Wisconsin. And it's a big money saver for the state.
We might have to bypass this. It's 11.
We can delay the vote on this. You can think about it. We'll come back to it because it's time to read the budget. Oh, one more question?
I guess if you wouldn't mind entertaining, I'm just wondering if there's a way to give me an idea of how many miles of road $1 million gets us to fully 3 miles for $1 million.
People say it's over $1 million a mile.
Our cost is closer to 330 a mile.
That includes just milling, shoulder, putting a little more base down, shouldering. It doesn't, no bridges, nothing out there, culverts, that's extra. That's just for blacktop, gravel, shoulder, and man hours.
We'll postpone further discussion on that subject and have Paul read the budget.
Would you open the hearing?
Open, the budget hearing, yeah, opening the budget hearing.
Okay. I will try, okay? I'm going to keep my bottle of water close by because I have been getting pretty dry. Mhm. Okay, you tell me when I start. Time me, okay? Okay, I'm going to be reading.
You were supposed to have brought this long sheet with you, so, but it'll be on the board.
You got it in person last month at County
Last
Board.
month they told you to bring it.
It's right here too, or right down there, right there and up there.
That's on it.
Okay, as I was mentioned, I'll be reading the last 3 columns.
Yeah.
So like the first one will be County Board, budget,
okay.
$98,826.92. Revenues,
Go to the
0.
clerk.
Levy, $98,826.92. The 800 telephone number, budget, $125. Revenues, 0. Levy, $125. Circuit Court, budget, $1,103,213.46. Revenues, $473,710. Levy, $629,503.46. Law Library, budget, $14,914. Revenues, $7,800. Levy, $7,114. Coroner, budget, $113,207.59. Revenues, $18,000. Levy, $95,207.59. District Attorney, budget, $345,344.98. Revenues, $46,771.92. Levy, $298,573.06. TAD Grant Diversions, budget, $50,000. Revenues, $50,000. Levy, 0. Corporation Council, budget, $225,648.10. Revenues, $18,250. Levy, $207,398.10. Special Accounting, budget, $85,000. Revenues, 0. Levy, $85,000. Indirect Cost Study, budget, $4,625. 0 levies, 0 revenues. Levy, $4,625. County Clerk, budget, $350,855.75. Revenues, $9,550. Levy, $341,305.75. Human Resources, budget, $399,068.94. Revenue, 0. Levy, $399,068.94. EAP Program, budget's $9,500. Revenue, 0. Levy, $9,500. Elections, budget $93,211, revenues 0, levy $93,211. Information Systems Department, budget $949,443.85, revenues $31,140, levy $918,303.85. Treasurer, budget $205,281.03, revenues $6,000, levy $199,281.03. Courthouse, budget $978,858.94, revenues 0, levy $978,858.94. Property project initiation is 000. Security screening, budget $226,643.34, revenue 0, levy $226,643.34. The Risograph, budget $400, revenues $400, levy 0. Property and liability insurance, budget $489,137, revenues $288,737.58, levy $200,399.42. Workman's comp, budget $425,520, revenues $319,140, levy $106,380. Accrued liability work comp is 000. Unemployment, budget $53,258.97, revenues in the same amount, the levy is 0. Health insurance deductible, budget $132,000, revenue 0, levy $132,000. I don't even have enough spit in my mouth there. Sorry about that. Register of Deeds, budget $265,199.10, revenues $213,000, levy $52,199.10. Land Records Administration, budget $340,357.48, revenues $21,300, levy $319,057.48. Land Records Public Access, budget $137,233.71, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Land Records Retained Fees, budget $171,285.57, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Land Records WLIP Grant, budget $389,814.63, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Tax deeds, budget $6,000, revenue 0, levy $6,000. County share of uncollected property taxes, budget $500, revenue 0, levy $500. Sheriff's Administration, budget $3,771,459.25, revenues $105,500, levy $665,959.25. The DARE K-9 program, budget $18,970.36, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Sheriff's Vehicle Capital Outlay, budget $140,000, revenue 0, levy $140,000. SCAPE, budget $55,618, levies in the same amount, the revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Dispatch, budget $979,865.69, revenues $47,780, levy $932,085.69. Support services, budget $111,406.40, 0 levies, 0 revenues, levy $111,406.40. Highway safety, budget $665, revenue 0, levy $665. Jail administration, budget $2,320,772.18. Revenues, $237,700. Levy, $2,083,072.18. Child support, budget $676,930.64. Revenues, $608,758.16. Levy, $68,172.48. MCO payment expense, budget $402,782.57. Zero levies, zero revenues, levy $402,782.57. Veterans relief, budget $3,500, revenue zero, levy $3,500. Veterans transportation, budget $10,000, revenues $8,500, levy $1,500. Veterans Service Office, budget $153,175.69, revenues $11,000, but levy $142,175.69. Care of Veterans Graves, budget $6,000, zero revenues, levy $6,000. Veterans ARPA grant, budget $15,000, revenues $15,000, levy zero. Libraries, budget $564,327.50, revenue zero, levy $564,327.50. Parks and Parks Commission, budget $180,178.71, revenues $45,100, levy $135,078.71. Petrick Park improvements is 000. Petrick Park shelter is 000. And turn the page. And take a swig. Economic development, budget $127,403.78. Zero revenues, levy $127,403.78. Digital marketing grant is 000. Broadband, budget $16,337.40. Revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Snowmobile trails, budget $74,830. Revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. The county fair, budget $24,000, revenue zero, levy $24,000. Digital media, budget $175,698.43, revenues $8,100, levy $167,598.43. Digital media voluntary gifts, budget $10,000, revenues $10,000, levy zero. Summer work experience is 000. University extension, budget $258,056.98, revenues $1,684, levy $256,372.98. Water quality education fund, budget $28,773.77, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. PAT and educational, budget $8,000, revenues $8,000, levy zero. Juntos, budget $1,250, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Community garden, budget $1,100, revenues $1,100, levy is zero. Youth education, budget $2,300, revenue zero, levy $2,300. Non-metallic mining reclamation, budget $7,500, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Land and water management, budget $40,000, revenues $40,000, levy is zero. DLM cost share, budget $50,000, zero revenues, $50,000 levy. LCC expense, budget $18,500, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. DLM, budget $720,121.07, revenues $319,848, levy $400,273 1,100,000. Lake protection and monitoring, budget $11,148. Revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Multi-discharge variance, budget $57,288.51. Revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Fish and game, budget $3,942. Revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Regional Planning Commission, budget $12,913. Revenues 0. Levy $12,913. DLM vehicle, budget $8,000. Revenues $8,000. Levy is 0. Building inspection, budget $100,000. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is 0. Planning is 000. Wisconsin Fund Septic Systems, budget $25,000. Revenues $25,000. Levy is 0. Miscellaneous expenses, budget $10,000. Revenues $10,000. Levy is 0. Contingency fund, budget $148,107.65. Revenues $74,138.58. Levy $73,969.07. Revenues that offset the levy, we have tax exempt computers, $28,528.84. Managed forest law, $98,857.90. County sales tax, $2,800,000. Interest on taxes, $150,000. Federal aid in lieu of taxes, $18,300. Shared taxes from the state, $2,685,071.33. Interest on temporary investments, $1.2 million. Personal property aid, $40,621.85. General fund applied is 0. And we go on to public health. Budget $435,861.55. Revenues $33,145.11. Levy $402,716.44. Bioterrorism $33,737. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is 0. School-based sealant program 000. TB dispensary, budget $2,512.25. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is 0. WIC program, budget $214,486. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is 0. Tobacco control, budget $1,066. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is 0. Public health workforce grant, budget $57,000. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is 0. Great River United Way is 000. Radon, budget $500, revenues $500, levy 0. Qualitative data is 000. WIC Farmers Market, budget $3,115, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. TNC well water, budget $15,000, revenues $15,000, levy is 0. Fit Family SNAP, budget $18,228, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Agent status, budget $124,465, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Car seat program, budget $4,000, revenues same amount, levy 0. My line here, WIC breastfeeding, budget $17,360, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Lacrosse water grant, budget $1349.94, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Communicable disease, budget $3,800, revenues same amount, levy is 0. The MCH grant, budget $18,402, revenues in the same amount, levy is 0. Prevention, budget $5,303, and revenues, the same amount, levy is zero. The MCH match, budget $13,802, revenue zero, levy $13,802. Immunizations, budget $10,102, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Childhood lead program, budget $4,620, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Oh, come on. Sorry about that again. Human Services, Economic Support, budget $725,695.75, revenues $569,276, levy $156,419.75. Long-term support, budget $145,564.99, revenues $126,857, levy $18,707.99. Child Care Program, budget $12,829, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Aging and Disability Resource Center, budget $601,705.56, revenues $561,460, levy $40,245.56. Justice Sanctions is 000. Emergency Direct Services is 000. Administration, budget $637,687.63, revenues $438,004, levy $199,683.63. Family and Children's Services, budget $2,229,957.58, revenues $1,143,505, levy $1,086,452.58. Human Services Vehicles is 000. Children with Special Needs, budget $3,284,780.37, revenues $3,086,774, levy $198,006.37. Behavioral Health, budget $1,623,111.92, revenues $1,428,453, levy $194,658.92. Going on to Senior Services, Benefit Specialist, budget $93,041.25, revenues $56,475, levy $36,566.25. The 3D Preventative Health, budget $3,721, revenues the same amount, levy is zero. 3B Administration, budget $34,184, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. The 8521 Specialized Transportation, budget $104,456.20, revenues $88,213.50, levy $16,242.70. The non-lapsing account is 000. 3E National Family Caregiver, budget $13,500, revenues the same, levy is zero. C1 Congregate Nutrition, budget $169,254.40, revenues $151,736.25, levy $17,518.15. C2 Home Delivered Meals, budget $356,457.09, revenues $294,421.15, levy $62,035.94. The Volunteer Driver Program, budget $102,186.89, revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Home Delivered Meals donations is 000. Senior Services donations 000. Special revenues, jail assessment, budget $120,038.77. Revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Wildlife damage, budget $26,395.31. Revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. Nutrient management, budget $20,000. Revenues $20,000, levy zero. TRM cost share, budget $218,750. Revenues in the same amount, levy is zero. LWRM cost share, budget $227,018. Revenues the same amount, levy is zero. Notice of discharge grant, budget $500,000. Revenues $500,000, levy is zero. Going on into the debt service principal, budget $3,465,000. Revenue zero, levy $3,465,000. Bond expense, budget $3,325. Revenue zero, levy $3,325. Interest, budget $1,551,714.44. Revenues $360,565.15. Levy $1,191,149.29. Going on to capital projects are all zeros. Enterprise fund, healthcare center, budget $26,047,577.09. Revenues in the same amount, levy zero. Dog fund, dog licensing damage, budget $12,000. Revenues $12,000. Levy is zero. The last swig. Highway administration, budget $499,098. Revenues $192,900. Levy $306,198. Supervision, budget $121,892. Revenues $88,500. Levy $33,392. Radio expense, budget $16,000. Revenues $3,386. Levy $12,614. The GPL insurance budget $35,000. Revenues $20,391. Levy $14,609. Highway fringe benefits budget $1,950,000. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is zero. Operation of equipment budget $2,641,655.91. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is zero. Bituminous operations budget $3,128,778. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is zero. Maintenance of county trunk highway system budget $1,991,543. Revenues $1,461,233.90. Levy $530,309.10. Winter maintenance on county trunk highways. Budget $600,000. Revenue zero. Levy $600,000. Co-aid road construction on county trunks. Budget $1,322,529.41. Revenues $651,279. Levy $671,250.41. Bridge construction budget $275,000. Revenues $2,000. Levy $200,000. And levy $75,000. State highway maintenance budget $2,087,785. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is zero. PBM projects is 000. Town City Villages maintenance budget $1,166,917. Revenues in the same amount. Levy is zero. County aid road construction local budget $1 million. Revenues $600,000. Levy $100,000. Co-aid Bridge Local, budget $164,724.09. Zero revenues, levy $164,724.09. Local Department Road Maintenance, budget $450,000, revenues $450,000, levy is zero. Miscellaneous Maintenance, budget $50,000, revenues the same, levy is zero. And then the very last line, or the last total budget request, $79,830,981.33. Revenues, $62,161,096.30. Proposed tax levy, $17,669,885.03. That's almost a record, 28 minutes. And I only made one mistake. What was the other one?
Last year, I think it was 4, so you're up in the game there.
And it was dry this time.
Looking for a motion, Dick?
No, we go back to this now.
Oh,
The budget, and you leave the budget open.
you leave the budget open?
The hearing, anyway.
So, if we're gonna call in or what?
Well,
We can go
anybody.
back- We can go back to
We
the
still have people.
Ohio transfer from this one, and go back
That's-
to item
that's-
2?
yeah.
All right, we'll go back to item 6A2, the transfer of unassigned general fund to the highway department of the $2 million. And there was some discussion on it.
No, you haven't voted on it yet.
No.
It was still in.
We're still in discussion. Yeah, I think we're still in discussion on it. Any other questions or comments on that? Go ahead, Mr. Todd.
So if we have 607,000 in the budget for doing this. If we didn't do this 2 million, there would be no layoffs?
There'll be what?
No layoffs for our highway department?
Probably would eventually be, probably won't have enough people to plow snow, and you gotta keep your crew busy somehow. And
Right, that's what I was wondering, because I
Yeah.
know we mentioned it. She
Yeah.
mentioned about the layoffs, and, we do this stuff. So I'm just asking, if we did not do this, that was a question, throughout the year, next year, we'd have to lay people off.
Probably wouldn't have enough money to do anything else.
Okay, good to know, thank you.
Just to add, it would be dang tough, but sometimes depends how much work they get from the townships and the cities.
Yeah.
We've had years past where the budget was tight or almost non-existent, and it was thank God for the townships and the cities that they kept the hot mix plant going and the guys on the payroll so that we carry them through, like John says, to the winter. It was really tight, and they were really slow on replacing guys for a couple of years when it was tight. But I think it might happen here if you didn't do it.
Right, but my like I said, my
Yeah.
concern was the idea of,
it
we
would be
keep
tough.
taking from the slush fund, and we keep taking from the slush fund every year, or a general fund, you wanna call it, there ain't gonna be a general fund. I mean, that's where I'm at, that's the reason
Exactly, I know
but I
what
don't
you're
want
saying.
people laid off, that's for
Right.
darn sure, but
Right.
that's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
hard
You
question.
maintain them as best you can.
Right.
I just need clarification. I had not heard the word layoff in the highway department. Who brought that up?
You just asked, no.
I just asked if they would.
Oh, you did?
If they would have enough work to do. I didn't actually say the word layoff.
Oh,
I
okay.
just wanted to know that.
Okay.
They would continue to stay working because last year we had over 5 million that we gave them. This year, it's 2. So I was worried about the difference in monies, how
It's
that
actually
would affect
2.5.
them.
We got 600,000 out of the budget before we even,
True, yep.
so it's,
It feels to me like I've never heard the discussion in my 9-year tenure on the board of highway department folks being laid off. I mean, there's the painting that they do, the line painting, and we have our own,
Brushing.
yes. So I've never been worried or concerned that highway department folks would be laid off. This is more, we're gonna have, we may not have the best roads to drive on, but that's a statewide issue,
Mr. Chair, I believe in our discussions in regard to this. We did discuss the possibility of having to do, excuse me, having to do a layoff if we can't find enough money to keep them busy.
Right.
And then the next step from that, you lay off people, the next year you're gonna have to reduce level of service for winter maintenance. So it just snowballs if we can't keep it going.
Right. Good point. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah. What will be the final, this doesn't have anything to do with I just want to know what the final amount of money will be in the general fund once this is taken.
Oh, you have it in your packet.
2.9.
That's the hair.
2.9 something.
Oh, 2 point,
It'll
okay, so
still have-
almost 3 million.
Yeah.
Okay,
Plus 2 more months, so.
2 more months of taxes,
It'll
sales
be
tax.
$2,948,000.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, and there's going to be increases in that because of interest rates on our money and sales tax money. So that could be back to 4 million real quick or more, correct?
It could be, but
Yeah.
then
But then if
property
we,
and
yeah,
exec
we
are
have some
working
other
on
things
how
to
do the
discuss, but right.
renovation, so.
Yeah, we still got this problem of remodeling this building.
I have a question also. So this $2 million, is it slated for specific projects right now or just general?
Pretty much
highway
road
construction?
It'll go into the road construction account.
Yeah, he's had a 5-year, 7-year plan actually out there, what he wanted to do with the 5 million. He had it 5 years specifically figured out for the next 7 years, I think it was.
I think it'll depend on what programs, to Jeannie's effect, you know, what we can maximize the outside funding sources and complete the project as opposed to getting halfway through something.
But still, with $2 million, we're gonna get 6 miles of road work.
More or less, yeah. And they might switch, you know. They had a plan on doing this road and don't have enough to do that. Now he's gonna have to do something different. So it changes all the time depending on your funding.
Yeah, sure.
And the weather.
Yeah, weather can affect it too, but normally they'll get the work done regardless.
Right.
And hopefully we don't have any disasters in the meantime that can really get your budget up.
And would overlays be considered road construction or maintenance? Construction, okay. All right.
That's a whole lot cheaper than the whole road construction, but.
All right, no further questions.
Basically,
Thanks.
maintenance is, even seal coating, I think, is considered road construction of some sort, but considerably cheaper than just rebuilding.
In regards to the general fund, I think obviously we're cognizant of wanting to keep monies in there for running the county or emergency purposes, whatever that may be. But I think a better way to look at it is that it's a pool of money that is unassigned. As it's not just a rainy day fund, it's unassigned and can be utilized, thankfully, for things like this, is my opinion. Thank you.
I know Dick has been chair before, and we've worked on getting that built up over time. It used to be really bad, so it's doing pretty good right now, but if you keep drawing like this on it every year, this is gonna last, that's for sure.
I'd call for a vote.
Yes. Okay, you got the call, that ends everything.
Huh? Okay. Now we got it straight, huh? Okay, Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson?
Yes.
Bridget Turner?
Yes.
Stacy Klein?
Yes.
Richard Seixer?
Yes.
Andy Todd?
Yes.
Emery Palmer?
Yes.
Kevin Adams?
Yes.
Dick Miller?
Yes.
David Orsh?
Yes. Yes.
Is he still traveling?
Yeah.
He's got his seatbelt on, okay.
I said yes.
Yeah, we can see you. No, he's in the passenger seat, I can tell. I can tell by the way that, the way that his seatbelt is going. That's
He's
how I
backing.
know.
He's backing up.
John Austin?
Yeah.
Don Waldera?
Yes.
Don Waldera, okay. Robert Becker?
Yes.
Dan Schreiner?
Yes.
Kellen Nelson?
Yes.
David Larson?
Yes.
We got 16-0, okay.
And, where are we at?
The next resolution, 'cause that guy's been on there for a long time.
Environmental and land use.
Whereas Ettrick DG LLC CGP Acquisition and Development LCC and/or Hurley and Stewart Inc. Travis Munn, Authorized Agent Kalamazoo, Michigan, Petitioner John W. Vernkamp Jr., Ettrick, Wisconsin, landowner, has requested the rezone of a parcel of land in the town of Ettrick for the purpose of the development of a 10,640 square foot general retail store. Whereas the rezone is on approximately 2.09 acres, more or less, and whereas a public hearing was held pursuant to section 59.69, parentheses 5 of the Wisconsin statutes, and whereas the town of Ettrick supports the rezone request, and whereas the Environment and Land Use Committee moved to rezone this parcel from transitional agriculture, TA, to commercial, C, and it appears that the zoning change request is appropriate under the circumstances. Now be it resolved that the county adopt the attached ordinance amending the zoning district boundaries as indicated. Introduced by Environment and Land Use Committee, Kellen Nelson, David Larson, Randy Severson, Stacy Klein, Andrew Todd, Don Waldera, Anthony Munson.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve by motion by Mr. Turner, seconded by Mr. Nelson. Any comments or questions?
Oh, so is Mike.
Mike's back here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Mike. Good morning, I'm Burge Gamra. I'm a zoning technician with the Department of Land Management. The resolution you have before you today is, like the resolution said, from Transag to commercial on 2.09 acres. As you're heading south through Ettrick, this would be on the west side of 53. This was published in the paper 2 consecutive weeks, and all adjoining landowners were sent notices. We did receive about 6 letters. 4 of them were in favor. 2 of them had some concerns. A lot of their concerns were about why were we rezoning this piece of land, as there were other buildings that possibly could have been used. We do have Travis Munn online. He can probably speak to some of this. They did say they looked at a building across the road that didn't serve their purpose. They also looked at a couple different sites on 53, and the DOT basically made the decision because they required certain access requirements, and this was the best spot. They are going to have to put in a turn lane and so forth. And so that is the reason for the rezoning of this property, basically.
Okay, any questions? He's online there.
Yep,
Travis,
he's on.
was it? His name is Travis?
Yes, Travis Munn.
Any questions of Travis?
Yeah, Travis, Andy Todd here. I asked a question in our meeting about the idea, and I don't know if you had a chance to check with them or not, on the building there in Galesville that had a lot of issues with bad product, and they threw a lot of it in the dumpsters. And there's a lot of people that came around and went into those dumpsters and took just a ton of stuff. Did you ever find out if that was going to be addressed in the future, or what they said about that by chance?
Yeah, and thank you for the question. That was actually news to us when you brought that up at the previous meeting. I do have Kirk Fairley on the call here as well. Kirk works for the developer. He was going to look into that a little bit more, but it's typical that this doesn't occur. I mean, that's not normal. So we would definitely discourage against what happened in Galesville. But Kirk, if you're able to comment on that any further.
Yeah, I asked the real estate director for Dollar General for this area. I have not heard back yet. Like Travis said, I assume it's isolated because I'll report back.
Did everybody hear that?
No.
He hasn't heard back. He hasn't heard
No.
back from
Whatever.
people he contacted. That's what I got out of it. I don't know if that was correct or not.
Well, I guess all I have to say is it ain't an idea of, because I voted for doing it because I think it's a good move, but it's just the idea of in the future if we could look at something like that. It's just for the residents. We don't need that liability, nobody needs that liability of somebody getting hurt or allowing that to happen, because I know it definitely happened in Galesville. So I just wanted to make sure that was addressed is all.
Yep, appreciate it. And yeah, or our client specifically, would not want that liability either. So, it's a great point. We'll continue to track that down.
Okay. No other discussion? You call a roll?
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
Abstain.
Abstain. I can spell it, just a minute. I got it. Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
David Orsh.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
Okay. 15, 0, and 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item C, the resolution, members' claims.
Whereas the Audit Committee has audited the following claims and recommend that they be allowed as follows. John Austin, $1,708.95. Kevin Adams, $69.65. Robert Becker, $593.88. Ron Johnson, $224.67. Stacy Klein, $1,036.01. David Larson, $693.88. Dick Miller, $241.92. Kellen Nelson, $67.03. Jeannie Nutter, $709.38. David Orsh, $745.50. Emery Palmer, 0. Richard Seisha, $604.36. Dan Schreiner, $203.28. Lori Severson, $81.44. Andy Todd, $173.36. Bridget Turner, $751.52. Don Waldera, $703.48. Grand total per diems, $6,100. Expenses, $2,508.31. And grand total, $8,608.31. Now be it resolved that the claims be allowed as shown, introduced by Audit Committee, John Austin, Emery Palmer, Kevin Adams.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Turner. Seconded by Mr. Larson. Any discussion at all? No, call the roll.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
David Orsh.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yep.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Okay, 16-0.
Under item 7, a couple of announcements I'd like to. One, November 30th, at 10 o'clock, the president and staff from Chippewa Valley Tech is coming to do a tour. If anybody would like to go along, it's going to be like 10:15 or so. We'll probably be doing a tour. And then she'd like to talk a little bit about Chippewa Valley Tech. If anybody'd like to come along on that, that's on November 30th. And then, I don't know, would you like to announce the meet and greet?
Sure. So with regard to our pursuit of a county administrator, we have scheduled 2 new interviews for December 1st. The structure for that will be very similar to the original interviews that we had conducted. However, we will do the meet and greet with this group over the noon hour on December 1st. I'm hopeful that, I forget now if we're going to call that a meeting so that people are coming to that, or if we're just open inviting.
It depends on quorum. That's all I'm concerned about.
Yeah, we definitely want to have staff show up, or, board members show up for this meet and greet, and it's basically just for board members and the 2 candidates. So it'd be nice as many of you as can make it.
December 1st, around noon, you said?
Yeah, it's a noon to 1 probably. So.
I'll post it as a meeting so that.
Yeah.
Because there isn't any other meeting that will be going on that day. Like last time, we had the county board afterwards. But
Correct.
yeah, there won't be that, so I'll post it as a meeting.
So, okay.
At noon and here in this room?
It's actually going to be in the Trempealeau room.
Is it?
Yes. We're going to have one table on one side and one on the other. There's two candidates.
Oh,
Half
kind
of
of
us
the
will
same
split
setup.
up. Basically, well, we had 4 candidates before, and we had
3.
So this will work a little bit. It'll probably be in opposite ends of the Trempealeau room, which is a pretty good-sized room. And
Paul, could you send out or email some kind of correspondence on that?
Yep.
so anyway, that's just an announcement. I don't know, did you have any other? Oh, I got an appointment. That should be in a letter in here. Appointment for the Housing Authority Board to succeed Kurt Johnson. Anyway, this is John Austin, Chair, Trumbull County Board of Supervisors. Dear Chair Austin, the Housing Authority of Trumbull County would work better if I had my glasses.
Oh, you did pretty good so far.
Is required to reappoint, requesting a reappointment of Kurt Johnson of Independence to the Housing Authority of Trumbull County Board of Directors for another 5-year term. Mr. Johnson's term expires on 12/31, and Mr. Johnson's vast financial knowledge, past experience, and involvement in the community is a tremendous benefit to our agency. Thank you for your consideration. So I'm just looking for board approval on that.
I so move.
Motion made, second to approve. Any other discussion? Not, we can just call the roll.
All in favor?
All those in favor? Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So that takes care of that. Any other court?
You didn't say it. I went like this when you said
Oh.
all in favor, and then nobody.
Aye. Yeah, my glasses on, it's really confusing. All right, then we gotta go back to the budget hearing?
Well, then the other things that are in your packet are the expense reports, general fund, and sales tax updates.
Yeah.
And then one other announcement is that when we're done here today, you can go up to the office and pick up your check at the treasurer's office. For your per diems and your, what I
last
just
month.
read the claims. You can pick it up.
Don't have to, they don't have to mail it. Save some postage.
Well, you'll get a dummy check then. I mean, a red
Oh,
one.
my
actually.
God.
Oh, they're
The
just
rest of
white
us
now,
get
they're
dummy
not,
checks too, maybe.
not red anymore, that's right. We plain paper. Okay.
Now we have some unfinished business with the budget. We did have a motion and a second on it, right?
No.
No motion or a
No,
second yet?
no.
No?
We just
No?
have the here, oh, okay, go ahead.
Motion by Ms. Motion by Ms. Turner to approve the budget. Is there a second?
I'll second it,
I
John.
thought it was right there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Two young ladies here.
Oh.
I guess I won't.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on it?
And
Yes,
the
Ms.
hearing is
Nutt.
still open, so anything,
Yeah.
anybody from the public can actually talk to.
Yeah,
Oh, but Jeannie's.
go ahead.
I have a concern about our budget, that there's no cost of living increase for employees. I'm rather upset about that. I know the Personnel Committee recommended 2% and it was vetoed. Our employees, we've asked a lot of them in the last couple of years. Well, for one, healthcare is going to go up, so some employees may see a decrease in pay. We currently, Human Services has 4 openings for social workers that we can't fill. The jail has a position we can't fill. I'm concerned about how we are treating our employees and ignoring what they've gone through with COVID and how dedicated they are, and people don't take vacation because they're so dedicated to their work. We hear this all the time in the Personnel Committee where we have to come in and approve extension to carry over more hours because they just, the health department was short-staffed, Human Services is short-staffed. I had an employee tell me that everybody's dispensable and there are people lining up to work here, which is not true. We're having a really hard time filling positions, and I think part of it is we can't keep up with, a social worker just left to go to a different county where she's getting a $5 an hour increase in pay and a more flexible schedule. What we have to do is support our employees. I don't know where we go to the budget to look at the 2% increase, but I just can't bear the thought of no COLA for our employees this budget season.
Just to help me understand, I believe there is a cost of living increase that is planned, or is there any
No
increase?
COLA, just a step increase.
Step So annual year of service increase.
But
is
not
what we're looking
everybody's
at.
going to get a step increase. They may be at the highest level. And health insurance went up drastically.
How much did health insurance go up?
One employee told me hers went from $200 to $700.
If they stated still, depending on the options.
All things being equal, though, Paul, you had that
Your
number
share.
of the percentage that the healthcare insurance went up. Did 11%, I think you told us one day in our exec finance meeting.
Oh, must come from.
11%. So if you're talking
The
about well
healthcare
over
center or the whole county?
the whole county.
That would be everybody.
As
So,
a
yeah, it
general.
couldn't go up 700.
So if that premium went up, there's either some sort of other options or whatever that person chose. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
as a
everybody's health
rule-
insurance packets are different, but
Right.
I'm just saying, I really can't, I mean, I just can't
There-
fathom a
and in
no
this-
cost of living increase.
In this step increase, yes, for those that are already at the tops of the steps, there's not a lot of room or places for them to go. They also tend to be the highest level paid positions within the county.
Not really, not necessarily.
But remember, there's an automatic, January 1st, there's an automatic step increase, but your job description, the amount of work that you do is, there's no change in your job, and you're getting an automatic increase.
And it
In
varies.
general, that varies,
It varies for
obviously.
everybody. So this is my first time in 9 years where there hasn't been a cost of living increase for employees.
I think when we adopted this step increase, I know some of us were here, some of us weren't here, but I think in theory it's a really good idea, but we just came off two immensely huge years of inflation, and those step increases just do not keep pace with that.
Oh, exactly.
They just
And-
don't.
And, well, inflation flatlined this month of October. It didn't go up, it didn't go down. But our employees, it's the employees that have to deal with, competitive wages all around Trempealeau County. And we see that all the time, especially in human services. I mean, we're having to look at changing how we hire social workers to say, bachelor's degree in social work preferred, but we will consider other four-year degrees with experience, and then those workers have to spend 2 years taking classes so they can get a training certificate, so they're gonna have to travel, they're gonna have to go to Eau Claire to get the classes, because we can't afford to pay for that out of the human services budget. But, I mean, every single employee here has a different story, and I just feel like we are not supporting our employees by not having a cost of living increase. I have not seen that in this county since I've been here.
Interim HR director is here, and I hate to put you on the spot, but can you explain the insurance between here and, actually, they're both under the same
Right.
policy, and their cost per employee is so much less because they chose a different plan. I know on personnel bargaining, we chose the least cost to the county, to the taxpayer. They have an advantage there. They can just increase their premium per day's stay out there. We don't have that luxury as a county board.
Okay, ETF, the state provides plans for each area, and then they provide pricing models, and you get to choose which pricing model you'd like to go with. The two that are relevant here for our discussion, there's an option A that the healthcare center has adopted, and that pays 88% of the area's preferred, lowest price preferred selection. So what in practice that means is that in your area, the preferred provider premium, you cover 88% of that at the lowest cost. So it results in them getting about, for a single plan, and the employee is only responsible for like $7 a month, and a family plan is under 55 or thereabouts. They're very remarkably low numbers compared to others. The other plan, you can choose the preferred lowest cost statewide, and that's what we selected, and that's 88% of that cost. So it leaves a larger portion for the employee. I believe a family plan, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, it's somewhere around 250 something or
251.56.
That would be the employee's portion. So it's considerably larger monthly contribution for employees here at the courthouse versus those out at the healthcare center. The Exec Finance Committee did discuss it and felt like we should match what the healthcare center is doing, but because of the timing of the issue, that open enrollment had already started, several people were already making healthcare decisions for next year, and the Exec Finance, I think, correctly decided that this is not the time to change that, but we would have that conversation for next year in time so that every employee had an opportunity to make a decision based on what they're actually going to select.
Does that answer your question at all? Go ahead.
I just want to clarify. So you're saying that the average employee is spending somewhere around $250 a month for a family plan per month?
For a courthouse employee, that if they choose the preferred plan, the lowest cost preferred plan, they would be on the hook for $251 a month. And I don't know the single off the top of my head.
$102.42.
It's actually 12% of the cost of the policy, basically.
Thank you.
So it's the same plan, it's just how you calculate what you're going to reimburse for premium is different.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
We got
too many on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll turn mine off. I'm sorry.
On the subject of a cost of living, I mean, this is budgetary. So the question I need to know the answer to is, what does a 1% cost of living adjustment cost the county? For each 1%, what does it come, what is it hitting our budget?
3,000 more. Can't remember off the top of my head. I did numbers quick for HR yesterday, well, for the last week, and did everyone's step increase, calculated what a 2% would be, and that was 210,000 roughly, and that is only for employees on the wage scale. Highway is not included. They're on a separate scale and had an increase, and police professionals, the deputies are not included due to their contract. Everyone else was there. Normal step increase is going to cost us $206,000, I think, was what I sent you. And if we did 2% on top of that, it'd be $210,000 total. So roughly $6,000. So 1%, I'm guessing $3,000 more.
3,000.
And that was a quick guesstimate. I don't have part-time or fill-ins in there.
105,000.
105, yep.
Yeah, instead of
105
Yep.
per 1%.
Yep.
Yeah.
105,000 per 1%.
Yes.
And 2% was what for the year? 210,000.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Go ahead.
Is that, Stacy, that step increase is 200 and some thousand, so that's like a 1%, 2% increase? But that doesn't hit
It's not
everybody,
across the
right?
board.
It depends on which part of the
Yeah.
step process you are.
You are in.
Can be anywhere from
The first 6
2.5%
steps
down.
are 1.25%. About
yeah.
percent, and then once you get to the
Above.
midpoint, past the 6th step, then it drops down to
Would you say
0.625.
that, would you
it's
say
the
that
other way
hits
around.
like
It's
90%?
Two something.
No, no, if you
Under
get
six.
past the
Getting like
midpoint,
$1.50,
you don't go up higher.
Depending on where you
1.25
are.
over 6.
And some aren't even getting 30 cents. So I averaged the norm, or what everybody's increasing, it averaged out to 56 cents per employee.
Okay, and you
Yep.
said you said it didn't hit every employee, but it must hit like 95% of them?
Yes.
Okay.
So additional questions, so I don't know if it's to you or to Paul over here, but correct me if I'm wrong, if we did a 2% increase or any increase thereof, some of that would not be tax levy dollars because some of the employees are paid out of grant funding,
Right,
correct?
Correct.
So when you look at $210,000, I don't know what percentage of that would be levied and would not be levied, but I think when you look at the budget as a whole, it is a chunk of money, but I think we've also tasked employees and departments with reining in and keeping close tabs on their budget and whatnot. And I think this would be a case where this not only benefits our county, even though is an increased cost to the taxpayer potentially, but it hugely improves the quality of life at a time when inflation is out of control.
Well, it's flatlined this month.
Well, this month. So I don't think anybody that works here at the county is feeling the flat line.
Right.
So that's all I'm going to say.
Our employees have certainly been, under the crunch of inflation. We see that. We see that we've got a budget we're trying to balance, and the cost of living increase is something that, while it might not be contractually obligated, it is a expectation that has come to be expected of our employees working here, and maybe part of the informal agreement we have with those employees that we're taking care of them and trying to retain them. Sitting on personnel and bargaining, I see the challenges we have in retaining employees. We have significant costs in recruiting employees, as well as significant costs in training employees. All of that being said, I guess leads me to, I'd like to make a motion to amend this budget to include a 1.75 COLA increase.
Go ahead.
Wait.
Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
I will second that in order to get it on the floor for discussion. I have a couple of questions. Paul, where do we stand with our levy limits?
We are, in this budget right now that I read, we are at the top. We can't go any higher.
Okay, so we have to cut somewhere
So
in
if-
order to cover
if we
that.
come up
No.
with whatever,
You
175,
can
I
take
don't
it
know
out
what
of
that's
general
gonna be.
fund.
No, we could do a resolution next month to take it out of general fund. It's the only way I can see to do it.
It's only $200,000.
But we have to have a dollar amount,
Yeah, the
Mr.
dollar
Chair.
amount would have to come out of general
We just
fund.
took,
Do it with the budget.
we just,
Get it out of budget.
we just took 2 million
And-
for the,
and-
Mr. Chair, I'd like to
Yes.
amend that motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to amend that to a 2% COLA.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on increasing it to 2%.
And that total is, for the year, is 210,000, Stacy, right?
Yes. But not all of that are levied, so.
Right.
So we may have some room. You said we're almost exactly at the top of
We're
that
to the
levy?
penny. We're actually
Okay.
to the penny.
Yeah, actually, yeah, the budget, as
So I
it is
think-
right now, it's.
So I think you won't know
the actual
till Paul
amount.
goes through to find out
Either way-
exactly
either
what
way, it
that's
would
going to
still
get
have to come out of
levied.
general fund.
I'm just looking at something for a second here.
Is it possible to take it out of general fund?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can. Because right
I
now,
would-
we're not taking anything out of the general fund.
Yeah,
As I
we're
read
gonna
it,
take
there's
the high-
nothing coming from the,
We're taking it out of the
Could-
general fund for highway.
Could you
I'm
amend your,
talking about this budget.
Oh, yeah.
could you
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion for the 2% COLA raise to come out of the general fund.
and I'll second that.
for this year.
That's the amended agenda. So,
Not agenda.
Amended.
Sam's on top of things.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You own that motion. That is once she has made that amendment, you own that motion. So you can I guess you can decide whether you're gonna allow them to change it or not.
Only thing I'm gonna allow is to come out of the general fund instead of the.
That's all I'm saying is
Yeah.
that they can't change their emotion. You own that until we vote on it.
Right. So we gotta vote on the first,
No, the amend.
this
The
amended
The
amendment
amendment.
Because
to the amend.
we got to
Yes.
1.75.
Emery made a motion, and she amended it, so you have to vote on the amended before
And
you
I
go
s-
back to his.
I
Okay.
seconded the amendment.
Yeah, so the motion has a, would you read it back now, Sam? The amendment is 2% increase.
Increase cost of living increase to come out of the general fund. Yeah?
Of 2%.
2% is the
Okay.
amend. Did
That is
Emery-
the amended agenda.
No.
Amended motion.
Amended motion.
Our motion is, are we gonna,
And the Emerys didn't say where the money come from.
Correct.
right. So,
Right.
we're voting on the amended
Amendment of her.
Amended.
motion.
motion of 2% to come out of general fund. Is there any further discussion on that amendment?
Only that, where it comes out of, we can have a separate motion for that.
Well, I don't know where else you could possibly get it.
Well, no, but you know what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
We could also come up with that money by reducing other items in the budget. And then it wouldn't have to come out of the general fund if we were able to reduce other budget items by.
You could, but we
Cover
trimmed it
that.
down pretty well to bare bones. I think the rest of the exec finance committee would agree.
Literally in the Dick's Finance meeting, every department made cuts, every single one. The only ones we didn't cut was the Fair Board, which is kind of a donation on an annual basis, and the libraries. The only ones out of the whole courthouse that didn't get cut, including your board got cut. So, yeah.
Question. If we do the 2%, and with the step increases, they're already getting the 1%, would you say?
It varies depending on the staff.
But
If you're a new employer, like a 2.5. If
so it'd
you're,
be like a 3%.
once you're over
pay.
6, 7
I just wanna
years, then
get-
it keeps
So we know
dropping.
exactly where we're standing. I'm not against it. I'm just
It was
want to make
2.5
sure.
under
That's the only
steps
thing I hate about
and
always doing
1.25.
percentages, is because you make a bigger gap between your top people and your bottom
Yes.
people.
And-
Sometimes it's better just to throw one figure
I-
out. Everybody gets 50 cents or 75 cents. This way you don't increase that gap. That's one thing I always hate about percentages. It's good to do it.
I think that the step increases were meant to be a way to give raises and hire people on and have it be more equitable. But I would actually task the Personnel Bargaining Committee with looking at those steps and see if it's actually working. Are we able to, we obviously know it's difficult to hire on staff if we're the lowest pay range in the area. And I would task them with looking at that and looking at individual maybe fields and seeing where, or are there other ways that we can garner staff and bring them in? I know each department is looking at it as kind of an individual thing, but it just needs
That's
to
a
be.
good
It just
suggestion.
needs to be looked at again as a whole, I think.
So I guess that was my question, and I apologize that I'm not familiar with this, but with what regularity do we do a wage study in the area?
We just did one. We just finished one,
That was
that's-
almost 2 years ago.
but it just finished a year, not even a year ago.
So with what regularity do we do that? We just did it, but with what regularity? When is the next one planned?
It should be done, it was 10 years between studies, and the first one was horrible. The second one was way better, but we shouldn't be doing them every 10 years. We should be reevaluating that like every 2 years or every 3 years.
So through the wage study, you're looking at private sector and public sector?
Yeah.
Largely comparatives to other counties.
It was very intense.
So comparative to other counties, but not maybe comparative to other, for example, social services, right? They can get a job in a school, they can get a job in healthcare, they can get a job at a county. Are we looking at them by profession, or are we only looking at them by the location that they're working?
It was done, the wage study was based on, and why we had so many issues, I think, with this last one, is everybody had to do a very specific job description of their current position, and it was very time-consuming, and I'm not sure everybody was really accurate in what they did, because, and Kellen can attest to this, we have had individuals come back with, and there were some really serious problems in where they landed in the job study, and part of it was based on their information was just not really true about what they did in their job.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Could we get back to our policy, or I guess it's just a thought policy of 3 chances to speak on each?
Right now, the talk that you were having is on Bridget's amendment, which started.
Right, right. So could we please?
And I haven't had any discussion technically on.
Right. Could we please get back to that, Mr. Chair?
Okay,
Are you calling the question?
No. I'll call the question then.
all right. This is on the amendment, which is a 2% other than general fund. Is that right? Am I clear on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Call the roll.
Dick Miller. This is on the amendment to 2%?
I've never heard of an amendment on an amendment.
It isn't that yet. He made the motion.
It's an amendment on the motion.
Yeah.
No,
I amended the
but then it was changed again.
Yeah, but she changed her own, that's allowed.
Okay, you've approved that,
Right,
because I said you have ownership of that.
yeah.
Susan?
Emery made the motion.
Let court
Bridget
counsel rule on it, please.
You know, I
Turn your
think
mic.
that is, there we go, one of these days. I think, the discussion is great, and I think that there's obviously a lot of passion here. One option that you could do, because there is an amendment, there's motion amendment, and then more discussion, and then I think things have gotten confused, and it would be up to Supervisors Turner and Palmer, but you could withdraw your motions, and then a new motion could come forward, and that would be probably the most cleanest. So that's an option that you could do. Now, you guys are the owners of your motions, so that's really up to you, but you're very similar, so it is something that you could consider.
I will withdraw my motion, my amended motion, and I will make a motion to give a 2% COLA to come out of the general fund for the coming budget year.
My motion was still on the floor, so I think it's premature.
on the floor.
Haven't.
I amended it though, so it
But we didn't vote on
Is
that.
it still
Didn't get
there?
voted. Never
He
got
needs to
voted.
pull his too.
You both have to pull them if you want to start all over.
Before I answer that question, whether I'm going to withdraw on a point of discussion, is it important that we designate at this point in time where those funds would come from? Whether it's general fund or elsewhere? To the material of the
Or-
motion, does that need to be
Depends
stated?
on whether we want to get done today or not, that would be.
I guess I still believe that we should have a compromise and the lower 1.75% just out of principle that we're trying to be fiscally responsible, dial it back a little from what we've done in the past, but show good faith to our employees. I will withdraw my motion, having it be known that I still support the 1.75%, and there's no motion on the floor, is my understanding.
And
Is
the
that
seconds
correct?
have to be
Is that-
removed too. The seconds have to be
Yeah.
rescinded also.
The seconds to the.
So that'd be
either
Nutter and
motion or the
Miller.
both- Yes.
I withdraw mine.
Okay.
And
I need a drink.
you gotta withdraw yours now.
Okay, I withdraw my
Second.
My second.
Okay.
Oh, God, now I got it straight. We
Now
had to
the
withdraw
budget is just
everything.
sitting there by itself.
Now we're flat.
Okay, so I would make a motion for a 2%.
I think he had his hand up first.
I would be reluctant to vote on any of this without knowing the fiscal impact. We have an estimate, but I can't, in good faith,
Can't hear.
vote in favor of either of these motions because I don't know what it's gonna cost.
Did you have your mic on?
He did not.
In good faith, I can't vote for either of these motions because I don't know what it's gonna cost. I'm all in favor of a cost of living increase, but I really think to do my constituents the best that I can, I need to see what it's gonna cost. And this is an estimate. Can we vote on the budget and come back with a cost of living increase next month? Which seems to me
That's to me where it should go.
responsible way to do it.
Let's get the budget done first and then come back and do this.
Mr. Chair?
And I think we're all in favor of a COLA. You know, we have great employees and it's hard enough to keep them as it is, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Can, in addition to Supervisor Schreiner's information, can we see what part of that is actually going to be levied against the general fund? Because I know some of those wages won't be levied in that increase, so seeing that, I think, is important. What's budgeted?
You mean like
and
some
what's actually
some portions come
gonna
through
be
the
levied?
Some
Yes.
portions come through the state.
May I address the chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
My question to that would be, if it's outside of the budget and it's from general fund, does it matter if it's levy or grant dollars in
No.
that instance? Just a question.
Shouldn't make it.
No, but I think it's good to have that
Your mic's not in. Oh, there
information
it is.
to,
Yeah, she's good.
It's on.
It's on.
I think it's
It's
just
Turn
good
it
to
on.
have that information and
Okay.
know that. I don't know how difficult that is to calculate.
Yeah, that would be
It's
my concern,
probably-
is the limited availability of staff to come up with those numbers. I think Stacy has already put a considerable amount of effort into getting that estimation. It would take some effort. Perhaps this could go before personnel and bargaining on Thursday? Would the chair be okay with that? And they could ruminate and go over the numbers and perhaps deliver a proposal with numbers as firm as we can get them for next month? Is that
So
acceptable?
the committee could do a resolution for COLA after we meet on Thursday?
Does that seem feasible? Can we get those numbers in time for them on Thursday?
Dawn had a comment.
Possibly.
Dawn has a comment.
I don't,
Dawn has a comment.
I forgot what it is. I withdraw any comment.
Mr. Larson.
At this stage, either of these motions presented, I couldn't support. Not that I don't support giving the employees more money, that's not the point. The point is, as I understood it, and I did reread our credit report when we were doing the bonding issue a year ago, by taking money as part of the budget out of the general fund, the people that give us our credit rating look at that as taking capital away, using capital, and it reduces our credit rating. So I can't be in favor of, at this point, of anything that will take money from the general fund as part of the budget process. Somebody mentioned the highway. That's why we did the highway as a resolution aside from the budget. So it does not affect that in our next credit
so
application.
we can do the same thing, the personnel committee.
I think it could be done. I think help from somebody in front.
Yeah, we can do a resolution.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, do we need a motion to transfer this to the Personnel Bargaining Committee on Thursday? No?
There's no motion, all the motions were withdrawn.
All the
so-
motions are withdrawn, so there's no motion
The
on.
main budget one hasn't.
No.
Where
The budget.
Bridget and Klein.
Right.
We still have that one on the floor, the budget.
If I can, I believe the chair could just direct personnel bargaining to take it up.
Okay. I think one of the things that brought this up in the first place is you had some other concerns on the budget. Is there any concerns on the main budget, seeing some of these other motions are off the floor? Is the motion accepted to approve as is? Is there any more discussions to change something in the budget the way it is? Other than this wage thing, or this COLA?
Yeah, I guess I'd like some clarification on a line item if someone on the Parks Committee could speak to it. I was just looking at item 55200, and, you know, our previous levy dollars back in 2023 that were budgeted was $90,376.56. We're seeing an increase there now of a budget request to $180,178.71 with anticipated revenues of $45,100 for a proposed levy of $135,078.71. Can someone speak why we have such a large increase
We
on
have a
that?
staff member.
We have Mike here.
Yeah, Mike's here.
It's on page 2.
It's towards the bottom, third from the bottom, right below the 0000.
Yeah, that change is due to the realignment of the department and that realignment was approved by 3 committees this summer. So essentially, there's no new staff, it's a staff position moved from the land management budget to the parks budget.
I remember that on the Park Committee, you did approve that.
So it moves dollars from one budget to another.
So there's a direct reduction out of the other budget
Yes.
equivalent to that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And you probably could see it on page 3, about in the middle of the DLR. About 79,000. Right about the, little past the middle, it's 56110. Yep. 478 down to 400.
Good question.
No.
She thought of what she was gonna say.
No, no. I do have 2 questions about the budget, and mostly I'm just looking for clarification. I see under the county board, we have both retirement and health insurance. I didn't understand.
The secretary.
So you are the secretary specifically to the county board, and you do nothing but
She is
us?
only part of her budget
Is for this.
is this.
I see, so a percentage is allocated
And I
to that work. And you definitely don't have to look. I just wanted to understand it. I thought maybe there was something going on and I could have health insurance. I was like, really? Let's talk about that. No.
There was a time when that
Yeah. No,
was true.
And then
No, somebody else is turning mine on by,
If you're
Yeah.
speak and you don't have it on, they turn it on.
yeah, but we had too many. Anyway, $800 of her budget, county clerk, and of her is to county board. So the retirement on that is 6.9%, I think, is what it is.
Makes sense, thank you. One other thing I just don't understand, and I'm only seeking to understand, is that we have human resources who has a budget for recruitment. And then in the highway administration, no, not the highway, in the jail and one other, something in law enforcement, they also have their own dollars for recruitment, but none of the other departments do. I'm just trying to understand that division.
We don't do them all.
I don't know. I suspect it might have something to do with that they have union agreements that they have to go through, so recruitment might be a variation.
That probably does make sense.
But or because they have a need of screening them differently than other employees, that might come into play, having to get verification on passing screenings and whatnot.
You are correct. And with law enforcement, they have to go through recruit training. I mean, there's a whole process, and there's some psychological evaluations that are done in law enforcement hiring. It's very different from what, and the highway does their own.
But the highway doesn't have a budget for it, so that's what had me confused, because they're their own enterprise, so.
Oh, I meant law enforcement.
Okay.
Their hiring is different from,
Yeah, that makes sense with the law enforcement, but then, for example, with separate enterprises, wouldn't a separate enterprise also have its own budgeting for recruitment and so
I don't
forth?
think anybody else does.
It doesn't, no.
For Sheriff's Department, that budget line includes their PEP test results, is what that is.
They're who?
I don't know what it stands for, but that's coming straight from the sheriff's, from Carol.
Okay. Okay. Satisfied.
who does the highway hiring?
I'm getting more confused.
We do?
I'm going to throw one more thing at you right now. But on page 3 of the sheet, the small one, the long sheets,
Oh, okay.
the last item on there, the contingency fund, that's where the money for health insurance increases and wages usually come from. The amount that the health insurance increase, because I've already done that, is only $40,000. So there's going to be about 32,000 something in contingency that can go towards wages. So when we get to that point, moving money from the general fund might not have to be as much.
Okay. We'll work on that Thursday.
Okay.
Well, it's 30,000.
Missing somebody? Who am I missing?
I was just gonna ask on those, on the raise thing, could we take the money, do you have to take it out of, could you take it out of ARPA funds, or even like the interest we're getting off
No.
the, just,
Can't take it out of
ARPA
well,
can't
the
be used
interest
for
we're getting then,
personnel.
can we take it out of there? And
You have to
reassign
talk
some
to
of that?
Property Committee on that, because they're
Well,
grabbing for that for the
Sometimes I
renovation.
think our employees are more important than a $45 million building that we gotta add, I think.
Well, except that we've already built the building, and now we have to.
Well, we got another $3 million to go here, so.
Mr. Chairman, I call a previous question. I think we should have a second and a vote on that, but I'm going to visit with Susan later on, so.
Okay.
But I think we're ready to vote on this.
You can ask. You haven't closed the hearing yet either, by the way. He hasn't closed the hearing yet either.
Doesn't say anything on my agenda when to close this.
You
hearing,
close it
but
when you're ready.
I'm ready to close it.
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, the hearing is
Otherwise-
closed.
Okay.
We're closing the hearing. So now it's a matter of voting on the budget. We have a first and a second. I think it was
Turner and Klein.
Turner and Klein. Okay. Want to call a roll?
I can do that.
Okay.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Seixas.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
No.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
David Orsh.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
15-1.
The way I'm understanding, the rest is going to be brought up first.
That makes our mill rate $5.59.
What was it last year?
$6.07.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
That's
I
an
just wanna-
8%
I just want to
decrease.
congratulate the exec finance for putting together the budget. It's a lot of work. It's a headache. They put a lot of their time into it. And I think they did a very nice job, and I just want to thank them for everything they did. Thank you guys all. You did a great job.
And
I want to thank all departments for
Right.
making it possible by all taking a serious look and serious cuts. We cut all the way down through everything, like I said before. The only thing that we never cut was the fair, which is kind of a donation every year we just automatically do. And I also want to thank everybody for voting 100% on the libraries. So,
Me too. I echo everything you said. I think department heads and staff really, really worked hard to figure out how we could balance, well, it's not balance, but how we could have a really healthy budget. And when you look at what our final budget is, $79 million, and the levy is 17,000. 17 million. I mean, it would be great if it was 17,000, but, I mean, I think that we always do well when we're doing the budget, and I'm glad we're gonna be dealing with COLA on Thursday.
Did you say that was a decrease of 7%?
8% decrease.
8% decrease.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that right. Thank you.
right, 8%.
Divided by,
Well, that includes everything I got on the budget except the
7.9.
7.9% decrease. Item 10,
What's that?
instruct clerk to pay mileage per diem.
Move to pay.
Seisha Nutter.
Okay.
Okay. They said no, all right. Sounds like
You
a
ready?
nutty one to me, but that's okay. Call the roll.
John Austin.
Yes.
Don Waldera.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Richard Seisha.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
Emery Palmer.
Yes.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
David Orsh.
Yes.
Now you can go up to the treasurer and pick up your check.
After Easter.
Remember
After we
again,
adjourn.
December 1st, noon, meet and greet. And the next board meeting is on December 18th at our regular time, 7 PM.
Will there be like
Not
agenda
December
for that meeting since
18th.
you're gonna post it?
Well, he's gonna send out
I'll-
a notice. We'll have to
I'm
put
gonna
a,
do a board call, and I'll have it on the same sheets, the
yeah, we have to
agenda.
post it because it's,
So there will be a roll call.
yeah,
That's only to be safe if there's a quorum.
yeah. Okay,
Well, you can adjourn the meeting.
we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
12:36?
That's pretty good, really.